All right, guys, we'll start the show shortly. Philip Andrew Hamilton in the house today on a glorious day to be alive. It's a Wednesday across Charlottesville, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world here on the I Love CVille network. Philip Andrew Hamilton is a candidate in the 57th District. He's making a push for change. We're going to get to know his platform, his campaign, what he stands for, some of the tenets in his platform. Looking forward to spending about 30 minutes with him, and then we have some items out of the notebook that we need to get to from a news standpoint around Charlottesville and Albemarle County following the interview with Philip. If you guys could do me a favor of giving the show a like and a share anywhere you are watching, that would mean a lot to us. We are certainly grateful for you watching and viewing the show. The only thing we ask you in return is to give that show a like and a share. Philip, how are you feeling right now?
It's great. I'm glad to be on the show, and I'm glad to be running in the 57th House of Delegates District, and I'm actually the first Republican to run in 16 years.
Wow, 16 years of doing that. We're going to put that in perspective. We're going to get some insight into what you stand for. We're going to get to know Philip the man and Philip the candidate on the program today. We have couple of newspapers watching you right now, Philip. Good exposure for your campaign here on the show.
Great.
Judah Wickower is the fabulous director of the program. Judah, how are you looking on your end, my friend?
Ready to go.
All right, my friend. Give me 10 seconds, and we will get cracking. I am retweeting the show across all of the Commonwealth right now as we speak.
All right.
So the show is live on every social media platform humanly possible. We archive it on ilovecville.com. It's the only show where you can, type comments into any of the social platforms and change the pace and tempo of the conversation and the show. It's super dynamic. Something we wanted to do when building this network about 3 years ago now, which is it's crazy, Judah, how quickly time has flown, is to make the program as dynamic as possible, and I think we have absolutely done that. Judah, I am ready to rock and roll when you are, sir.
While I'm set.
Good Wednesday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. We're live in Charlottesville, across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. It's great to be with you on a Wednesday, an absolute glorious day to be alive in the Commonwealth. Our guest, who we will welcome to the program in a matter of moments, Philip Andrew Hamilton, a gentleman who is running for a seat in the House of Delegates, the 57th District to be in fact. We'll spend about 30 minutes with Philip getting to know the man and the candidate. I'm excited for you to meet him. Ran into him coincidentally at Three Notch Brewing Company when doing some brainstorming myself for my campaign for Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. The general manager of Three Notch is a friend of mine, and Justin Butler, and he said, Jerry, here's someone I think you should meet. We talked for a couple of minutes, and bing, bam, boom, exchanged phone numbers, and here we are today. Judah Wickower is our director. He's the North Star of the network. Judah, if you could, go to the studio camera first, and let's welcome Philip Andrew Hamilton to the I Love CVille show. How are you, Philip?
I'm great. I'm happy to be on the show today. I am actually the first Republican to run here in the 57th House of Delegates District in 16 years. Let me say that again, 16 years. I was actually a teenager the last time a Republican ran, back in 2005, because in 2005, that's when I graduated from high school, from James Madison University in Fairfax, Virginia.
So we'll cover that. I want to talk about the campaign. I want to talk about, your platform. I want to talk about why you're running as a Republican. I want to talk about your opponent, the incumbent, Sally Hudson, who we know well here. Before we do, how about we humanize, localize, and personalize Philip Andrew Hamilton, the man. Let's talk you. What do you stand for? What are you all about? Where'd you grow up? Passions, hobbies, and interests.
Sure. I'm actually a relative of George Mason IV on my mother's side of the family. And the Masons actually married into the Roosevelt family before Theodore Roosevelt was born. So I'm also related to the Roosevelts and descendants of the Mayflower and 3 Union soldiers that fought in the Civil War, 2 of them who marched with General Sherman on their way to Atlanta. I was actually born in Norman, Oklahoma. Me and my identical twin brother, Jeff Patrick Hamilton. And I don't remember being in Norman, Oklahoma because my parents only spent a year there before we moved. What happened is that my father, he immigrated from Iran before the Shah was overthrown when he was 17 years old, came to the United States as a legal immigrant, worked in a steel factory, and then he got his undergrad, his master's degree in engineering. He actually worked at the Severe Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma, reducing the range of detecting tornadoes from 25 miles all the way down to 5 miles. That got the attention of NASA. So when I was just a mere 1-year-old, my father got the job at NASA and decided to take the whole family to Maryland. And he got to work as an electrical engineer.
Smart guy.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, he's better at math than me. So we spent 4 years in Maryland, and then we moved to Fairfax, Virginia, right before I started kindergarten. So I got to go to Flint Hill Elementary, Thoreau Middle School, James Madison High School, all in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I actually only applied to one college, which is George Mason University, which is a former satellite campus of the University of Virginia before it became its own campus in the 1970s, I believe.
So the Commonwealth, very much in your DNA and your blood. Northern Virginia to Central Virginia. How did that happen?
That's a great question. I've traveled to many states. I've been to over 40. My goal is to travel to all 50 at one point in my life.
Which 10 have you not gone to? Do you know?
Well, Alaska, Hawaii. I haven't been to Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire. And yeah, those are the ones.
So you're making some progress.
Yeah.
So you go Northern Virginia to Central Virginia. Was it because of quality of life? Like many make the move from Nova to Central Virginia, a little less traffic, a little more opportunity, a little less rat race? Is that why?
That's definitely a big part of it. And let me backtrack a little bit as to why I came out here.
Sure.
So in 2015, I had the urge to go to the West Coast, and I accepted the job with Concerned American Voters PAC to work with Senator Rand Paul's campaign.
Okay.
At the time, he was running for president, so I was working with my fellow coworkers in Des Moines, Iowa City, and then we moved to Reno, Nevada, and then to Las Vegas, which was a lot of fun to live in, by the way.
Any stories you want to tell? What stays in Vegas stays in Vegas? What's done in Vegas? Anything you want to give us?
I actually got to meet John McAfee when he was running as a candidate, as a libertarian for president. And he is just as cuckoo in person as he is in his documentaries, just to let you know.
See, I was hoping for a little something a little more R-rated, but not no R-rated stories for the show. So you got a taste of Vegas. Vegas was not for you. Is that safe to say?
I don't gamble.
Okay.
So, but I did go to the nightclubs. The nightclubs are very exciting over there. I went to Omni and Hakkasan. I saw Tiesto and some other DJs, and was it Stevie Aoki? I saw him over there. And Muse. I actually got to see them live at the Cosmopolitan Hotel.
Nice.
But it's a lot of fun. I went to some 24-hour bars out there, and like you could show up at 4 a.m. and bars still open. So, but yes, it's a lot of fun being over there. But I also spent time outside of Vegas. So I hiked Mount Charleston, went to the top of that mountain. I went to the Gold Strike Hot Springs near the Arizona border, the Valley of Fire, and I went jet skiing along the Colorado River south of Vegas. So there's a lot of great outdoor activities to do in addition to what you can do inside the city in the party town.
So you have this well-traveled mindset.
Yep.
You've seen many aspects of the country. Educated at George Mason. Son of a very educated immigrant. A gentleman who is, you mentioned, an electrical engineer, a man with an innovative mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset. You go from Northern Virginia to Central Virginia. You're
Yep.
roughly 32, 33 years old?
I'm 33.
Okay, so
about to turn 34 next month.
Okay, so almost 34 years old. Okay. What brought you to this place we call Central Virginia? From my standpoint, maybe the best place to live out there, Central Virginia in the Charlottesville area. What brought you here?
Absolutely. Well, after working for Senator Rand Paul's campaign through the PAC, I spent 4 years living in Santa Cruz, California. I started a history website called HamiltonHistoricalRecords.com. I traveled to various gold rush towns, Angels Camp, where Mark Twain wrote the Leaping Frog of Calaveras County, and I went to the Camel Army Barn Museum in Benicia, which is north of Oakland, and I went to Fort Tejon, which is another historical site. But yeah, I got to travel all across the state of California for 4 years. And I decided when I moved back to Virginia, and I left because of Governor Northam's unconstitutional COVID-19 lockdown orders, which are worse than what we experience here in Virginia. But I said, if I'm going to move back to the state, I want to live in a mountain town, like Santa Cruz, because Santa Cruz is right next to Santa Cruz Mountains. And I wanted to get away from all the busyness of Northern Virginia and be in a city, but also be close to nature, because I like to go out and hike and spend time outdoors. And it's actually healthier to spend time outdoors too. The air quality is better here than Northern Virginia.
Yeah, I could imagine living
Yeah.
in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not knocking Northern Virginia. Those of you that are able to do it, I understand you have an opportunity to maybe make some more money up in Nova, but the cost of living higher. The rat race certainly dominates people's lives up in Northern Virginia. Central
Absolutely.
Virginia gives you, you know what I love about this area? You got the outside, like you said. I'm a huge UVA sports fan. The music scene, the restaurant scene, the brewery, the winery scene. I live in eastern Albemarle County. I mean, it is so like palatial and so gorgeous, so lush. When I want a taste of a city, I'm 2 hours from DC. I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from the beach and the Outer Banks. I mean, it's just perfectly centrally located. So you're 34 almost years old, and you want to be a delegate. Okay, you want to be a delegate. You're challenging the incumbent and Sally Hudson, and we'll get to Sally here in a matter of moments. Walk me through the flip book of decision making of why you've made this run for politics.
Sure. This is my first time ever running for public office. And the pandemic has been tough for everybody. I think the government could have gone about it a lot better. You know, we have Operation Warp Speed. We got the vaccine, which is great. But instead of fear-mongering, we should have been focusing on boosting individual immunity. You know, I personally take vitamin C, D, B6, B12. I drink elderberry syrup. And I actually had COVID-19 myself when I was vacationing in Florida earlier this year. And fortunately, I had mild symptoms. I didn't lose my taste. I didn't lose my smell because I boosted my own immunity. Now, doing that's not the cure. And of course, people with pre-existing conditions, even if you boost your immunity, you may pass away from it. But before the vaccine even existed, the government should have been encouraging folks to boost their own immunity. And I think I have new century ideas that, as a Republican, I can introduce in the House of Delegates. For example, food stamps. You can only use your food stamps to purchase food. Well, why not add vitamins to that? And government should be encouraging healthier behavior.
You can't use food stamps to purchase vitamins and supplements?
That's correct.
Really? Had no idea. I just learned something.
Yeah.
Like it only can be used for food.
Exactly.
I know food stamps can't be used to purchase booze and cigarettes, but
That's
I had
correct.
no idea that vitamins and supplements could not be purchased with food stamps.
Yes, and I've brought this up on Lobby Day. I talked to Senator Bill DeSteffe, and he's in the Virginia Beach area. And he said, well, vitamins don't cost that much. But if you are living in poverty and if you are dependent on government assistance, you're not going to spend that little money that you have on vitamins if you can't afford it. So the government has to change and modify people's behavior. So by having it as an option that encourages more people to be healthier, and it will help reduce the amount of COVID deaths here in Virginia, especially in minority communities where there's more poverty. So that's something the General Assembly must address.
So we're going to get to more aspects of the platform, tenets of your campaign here in moments. So is this safe to say COVID-19, the quarantine, the lockdown, and the very aggressive measures the governor of Virginia put into place were the impetus or the inspiration for you running for the 57th? Is that safe to say?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I think it's unconstitutional for the governor to say that we are going to impose curfews on individuals, saying after midnight you don't have the freedom to leave your home unless you're getting groceries or getting other items. I think it's unconstitutional for Governor Northam to say, to bars and nightclubs and other businesses that you can't sell alcohol after 10 p.m. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And actually, I did a press release calling it as it was. This is an abuse of executive power. And if I get elected to the General Assembly, I would introduce bills limiting the powers of the governor to limit the rights of individuals and of businesses during a health crisis in the future.
If you guys want to give the candidates some props, ask them some questions, share some perspective, put them in the feed. We will relay them on air. Maria Paradise, giving you some props right now on the show. I got some questions that are coming in that we will get to here in a matter of moments. Ashley Palmer, welcome to the broadcast. Candace Vanderlyn, hello and welcome to the broadcast. We have folks in Northern Virginia, Southwestern Virginia, Richmond, the 757, and across Central Virginia watching you right now. Vanessa Parkhill, we will get to this question here in a matter of moments as well. How would you characterize Governor Ralph Northam's response and management of COVID-19? If you were issuing a report card, a grading system, Governor Ralph Northam, how would he be graded by you?
Well, let's put it this way. Governor Newsom in California, he would get an F.
California governor gets an F from you?
Yes.
Okay.
Because California did it worse. But Virginia hasn't been much better, so Northam would get a D.
Okay. Who gets A's?
That's a good question. I would give the governor of Florida, DeSantis. He would get an A.
Tell me why.
He has not embraced this whole, unconstitutional lockdown mantra that other governors have been embracing. People are moving to Florida. They're escaping California and moving to that state. Businesses are thriving down there. And yes, they still have COVID cases over there that they're dealing with, but they have not been having this Draconian clampdown on businesses like we've seen here in Virginia and in other states. So we should be less like California and more like Florida, to be honest.
COVID-19 became such a politicized animal. The wearing or not wearing of masks became politicized.
Mm-hmm.
How governors of states in the free union responded to this pandemic became politicized. Those that were pro keeping the economy open, those that were against lockdowns, often were categorized or seen as siding with Trump. Those that had very strict or aggressive lockdown methodologies were seen as siding with Biden. Do you see it playing? Is that how you saw it play out?
Oh, absolutely. There's folks who they're identifying it as a political crisis, as we're calling it. And I think that was wrong. When the governor of Texas said, hey, we're going to remove the mask mandate, and then Biden's criticizing the governor for doing that, well, that's the governor's choice. The federal government should stay out of that. If a state says we're done and we're ready to move on to the next phase, that is their choice. And we have to get back to normal. I think we need to take those measures now. We need to reopen our schools. We need to reopen our businesses. We need to reopen our churches. And I think we need to stop infringing on the First Amendment right of freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. And I want to add, with the University of Virginia, where Sally Hudson is working as an economics professor, I spoke to the UVA Law Republicans chair, Chance, and he said, if you're living in the dorms, you're required to wear a mask at all times, unless you're asleep. I mean, these poor students.
They can't be wearing a mask while taking a shower.
Yeah, right?
Are they wearing a mask while taking a shower?
We'll have to bring a student on the show and ask them, But if they're in their dorm area, they're supposed to wear a mask. And it's like, how can the students live with this? You're paying for a premium education, and you're supposed to deal with these mandates on campus, and they're only allowed to have meetings of no more than 10 people, which is infringing on their freedom of assembly. I've had college Republican members, I've had University of Virginia law Republican members who've come up to me and said, hey, we would love to show up to your events, but we can't because if there are pictures of us taken off campus.
They could get suspended.
Yeah. So these students are not able to politically express themselves because of these lockdown orders.
Let's throw this to you. A lot I want to unpack with this. Why'd you choose the Republican Party to align with? A lot of your mindset is very libertarian in nature. Is this strategic in that it's been 16 years since Republicans represented the district. So that right there is an uphill climb, I think is safe to say. The Libertarian Party, the L, probably even more of a steeper climb than an R. I mean, an R, you at least can point to 16 years ago, there was one in office, right? The last one for a Libertarian, I don't think neither you nor I, even off the top of our head, could tell us the last time a Libertarian was in the 57th, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question I have for you is a straightforward and a tough question. You are 33 years old. You're a young guy, two young guys here. How difficult, challenging, how much did you think about putting the R next to your name when making this race?
That's a great question. I was originally running as an independent. I want to be abundantly clear. During the presidential election, I actually supported Joe Jorgensen for president. And I voted for Dr. Joe Jorgensen. I spoke with Howie Morgan, who was the former campaign manager for the Howie Lind for Congress campaign back in 2014. That was a campaign that I was the political director for back in 2014. And he said, 57th is overwhelmingly Democratic. You won't win as a Republican. And I took that to heart. And I started off as an independent because I said, I don't want people to focus on the party. I want them to focus on my platform. And for a few months, that was the case. I kept it rolling. And the college Republicans, the law Republicans, even the GOP committee chair, Dan Moy, said, we can't publicly endorse you. Clearly, you're more conservative than Sally Hudson. But unless you have an R next to your name, we're not going to endorse you. So I made the strategic decision to switch from independent to an R.
So you could get the support of the machine.
Yes, that's correct.
Was that a tough choice for you?
It was.
Because and I'm just going to throw this to you here, and you know this as well as I do. You know this better than I do. The R is a very polarizing party right now. And it's a polarizing party for a number of reasons. Probably at top of that list, President Trump, right? I mean, I think that's safe to say here. So this was a very key crossroads that you had to navigate, whether going the independent route or the Republican route here. And it seems like the scales of justice tipped just a little in favor of maintaining the R so you get the support of the machine. Is that basically what happened?
Yeah, right now we're living in the post-Trump era. And people are seeing that the Democrats in power, they have the majority in the General Assembly. We have a Democrat governor. We have a Democratic president. And I think, honestly, the Republicans are going to take back the House of Delegates this year.
Think so.
There are more Republicans who are running for the House of Delegates than there are Democrats. So the wind is on our backs.
What does the Republican Party need to do? This is two guys shooting the shit here, okay? What does the Republican Party need to do to, in a lot of ways, rebrand itself? Because the Republican Party here, two guys in their 30s here, two guys that have aspirations of being political in political office, two guys right here talking. The Republican Party, from my standpoint, you walked into an advertising agency, okay? We manage brands for businesses, nonprofits. We help them grow by improving their brand awareness. Improved or strategic brand awareness drives new customers and incremental revenue. Same thing for politics, okay? It seems like the Republican Party is still stuck almost in this Republican Party of 15 or 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. A Republican Party that maybe appealed or catered to our fathers or our father's father, as opposed to being youngified, as opposed to embodying more of almost a libertarian's mindset. For me, I'm fiscally conservative, but extremely socially liberal. Someone can marry whoever they want to marry. Cannabis not being legalized, I don't even understand why it hasn't happened yet. We're going to see it in the summer. Should have happened years ago.
Absolutely.
The fact that 3 to 1 people of color are charged with cannabis type arrests as opposed to a white person is obscene, right? I think a woman has, and this is just me talking, a woman has the right to do what she wants with her body when she wants to do it. After seeing my little boy come out of my wife and seeing what she went through for 36 hours of labor, I will never, as a man, tell a woman what she can do with her body because it's not my place to say it. I've never seen the pain or experienced the pain that I saw my wife go through for 36 hours to birth our kid. And after seeing that, I do not have the right to tell a woman what she can do with her body. Okay? I'm fiscally conservative, socially liberal. That tagline or that ideology is something that I feel like the GOP needs to utilize from a rebranding or a revitalization standpoint from the party. I don't know. I'll throw it to you. Your thoughts on the topic.
Yes. Well, when I was living in California, I actually went to a Trump rally in San Jose back in 2016. And I was holding a sign, legalize marijuana in California now. Now, when I voted in 2016, I voted to legalize, and it passed.
In Cali?
In California, yes. And my identical twin brother, he worked at a marijuana dispensary called Three Bros, and I frequently went over there and bought product from him, edibles and joints and other products. And legalization works, but where California got it wrong
was the taxing.
Yes, at over 33%.
That's obscene.
Yeah.
Over 33%. Okay, put that in perspective here. And the fallout or the ramifications of a tax clip that high.
I mean, it drove the black market.
That's right.
And it continued to exist. There's documentaries on Netflix about that. There's people who were like, well, I'm not going to buy from a dispensary. I don't want to pay all those taxes. I'm going to continue to buy from a street dealer where my marijuana could be laced with PCP and other drugs. And in Virginia, we need to cap it at the regular sales tax rate, which is currently 5.3%. I've advocated for lowering the sales tax rate down to 4%. So if we do that, then the marijuana tax rate would be dropped down to 4% under what I call my contract with Virginia. But we have to be the party that supports liberty, that stops saying no to marijuana legalization. It was the Democrats who pushed for it. And unfortunately, we didn't get any Republican votes supporting legalization. We need to get new Republicans in office who are going to support legalization and are going to support continuing to allow it to be legal in the state of Virginia. And that's what I'm going to be.
I want to talk to you about taxes in general. I've said often on this network that taxing is a regressive tactic that impacts our citizens living on the financial margin the most. I say that all the time. Taxes are a regressive tactic that impacts citizens on the financial margin the most. Your stance, and you've already touched on this a little bit here, your stance on taxing, and if elected, how you'll utilize the influence of public office to raise, increase, stabilize, keep them the same, taxes moving forward.
Well, we have to drop taxes across the board. As we know, the governor announced we had a $750 million surplus. And I was like, why doesn't that money just go back to the people? He told the General Assembly, use this money as you like. And I think that's just such an elitist way to go about. People are suffering during the pandemic. They need more money in their pockets now. And the Democrats are 100% wrong to even consider taxing PPP loans for businesses. They were given on the expectation that they would not be taxed, and it's shame on them for trying to tax those loans, because businesses are trying to rise above the pandemic. So I would lower property taxes, I would lower business taxes, the sales tax, I would even lower the income tax, and we should even consider abolishing the income tax as well.
Then where's the money going to come to keep the municipalities alive and running?
Well, we've all had to be on a diet over the past year. It's time for the government to go on a diet too.
What does that mean?
That means we're going to have to start cutting things in government. And we're going to have a discussion on where those cuts will be.
Interesting. Your opponent, Sally Hudson, economist, professor at the University of Virginia. She's done 3 or 4 different rodeos here on the I Love CVille network. Sally Hudson's a smart person. She is super bright. What do you make of Sally Hudson?
Well, I know that Sally, she got her undergrad at Stanford University in economics. She also has a PhD. I actually got my undergrad at George Mason University, which was Administration of Justice. I got my paralegal certification through George Mason as well, my advanced paralegal certification through Virginia Tech, and I got my master's degree in Administration of Justice and Security through the University of Phoenix. So yes, she does have the PhD, which I do not have.
I don't think it's needed.
Yeah, well, not for office.
I'm not saying I'm not pro Sally, I'm not pro Philip, I'm just 2 dudes shooting the you-know-what here,
yeah.
Right? Okay? I say it all the time on this network that I would very much, when building our team for this business, very much pick someone that is street smart and that has experience playing in a team sports setting over someone that is book smart and is not experienced in a team sports setting. The team sports setting and the street smart individual is the one that fits in best in this team, and this business, and these businesses. So the prioritization or even you highlighting the education, I don't even think is needed. I think at this point, folks realize that someone who's super, super book smart, that theory may not translate to brass tacks into government, into getting shit done.
Yeah. And
So, go ahead.
You don't need a PhD to realize that reopening businesses now is going to create more jobs.
Do you have
It's
a
gonna
business? Do you have business background, business experience, running a small or medium-sized business, working alongside the owners of a small or medium-sized business?
Well, in California, I started a legal services business, which is called Hamilton Legal Services. So I worked as a court runner and as a process server. So yes, I do have small business experience.
How would that experience serve you well if elected?
I know what it's like to be a go-getter, to having to start from the ground up. And, I appreciate what small business owners have to go through.
It's brutal, man.
It is. And I would consider even the Virginia State Corporation Commission, because you have to pay a filing fee to start your business with them. Let's reduce it from $75 down to $25. Let's reduce the cost of business licenses across the board. Let's make it easier to create a new business in Charlottesville and in the rest of Virginia. That's what I'm going to be fighting for.
City of Charlottesville, we'll put it in perspective for you. You see, we talked about this on yesterday's show. 7 LLCs hanging on the wall over there. One of them is a holding company for the other 6. The city of Charlottesville makes you pay your taxes on gross revenue in advance of receiving that revenue.
Wow.
So you're paying your taxes for 2021 early in Q1 of 2021 on gross, projected gross for the entire year, lump sum early in Q1. I mean, that's one of the many paper cuts that impact a small or medium-sized business owner like myself and make it difficult to keep the lights on, pay the mortgage, even just to survive. So I like your business background, okay? Throw this to you here. How are you going to overcome 16 years of a Republican never being in office in the 57th? How are you going to overcome the connotations, the denotations that come with this party when people just go into a voter booth and are literally pulling the lever based on party affiliation? Because that still happens, as you know.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you this. I support an Article 5 convention. You know what this does? This allows for a convention of states, which George Mason, my relative, supported, to allow for a constitutional amendment to enact term limits on Supreme Court justices, on congressmen, on senators. Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi have been in office for far, far too long. But I think that doesn't go far enough. We need term limits for the Virginia House of Delegates, for senators, for school board, for mayor, for city council, even for board of supervisors. I think that resonates with a lot of Republicans, independents, libertarians, and even some Democrats. So I'm going to be pushing this term limits issue all the way up until November and beyond because we need change. And I think people are sick and tired of the status quo.
The term limit concept is intriguing to me. Ann Malik, Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, she's been in office for 3 or 4 terms. 3 or 4 terms. Probably the most influential Albemarle County Board of Supervisor. Diantha McNeil, I think she's going for her 3rd term. Oftentimes they're running unopposed. Take the Samuel Miller District in Albemarle County. Liz Palmer announced her resignation. She's not going to run again. The person who's pursuing the seat, running unopposed. I am a business owner. Having multiple options on the market creates accountability and forces everyone to be the best version of his or herself. Term limits is an intriguing concept. I would bet you've gotten a hell of a lot of resistance on term limits so far.
Oh, even within the Republican Party.
That's what I'm saying.
People in power don't want to lose power.
That's what it is.
Yep.
And then what's your response to that?
Well, I'm not representing the establishment Republicans. I'm representing the new age Republicans who want accountability of their elected officials.
What's a new age Republican? What are the tenets of the new age Republican?
Well, we're the post-Trump Republicans. We're the ones that support marijuana legalization. We're the ones who are going to fight tooth and nail to end all the COVID-19 lockdowns and restrictions. We're the ones who are going to create new solutions. We must create prosperity through greater freedom. I actually came up with the idea, why don't we be more like Florida? Why don't we allow bars and nightclubs and other venues to be open until 5 a.m. instead of just 2 a.m.?
So you're very much a survival of the fittest, Darwinistic mentality.
In some regards.
Right? I mean, you're a free market capitalist.
Certainly.
Is that right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
What do you say to the people that say Florida had some of the highest cases and hospitalizations and deaths in the country? How do you counter that?
Well, I mean, that's true. They did have high COVID deaths, but so did California. California had the most ridiculous COVID-19 restrictions in the country. They said before Thanksgiving that you can only have Thanksgiving with 2 different households, and you can only meet for 2 hours outdoors, and you can only go inside the household to use the bathroom. I'm like, is there enough police to enforce all these ridiculous restrictions, even at a time they're defunding the police? So we see that California and Florida both had about the same level of COVID-19 cases, but Florida was more open. So it just shows it didn't work. And those businesses several bars and other institutions in California went out of business completely. And for what? They should have kept them open.
Vanessa Parkhill is watching. Vanessa Parkhill always offers phenomenal perspective on this show. Earlysville, Virginia. Vanessa Parkhill. She says conservative values and ideas were in place back when Trump was voting Democrat in New York City. I like that Philip wants to focus on the platform, not the party label. I hope the voters are able to do the same. That's Vanessa Parkhill.
Absolutely.
More comments coming in. We will get to him in a matter of moments here. You brought up defund the police. I was going to ask you to defund the police. This is a perfect segue.
Sure.
Defund the police is a hot button topic. It's been politicized. It's been manipulated. It's been exploited. Defund the police started as a byproduct of George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis. Now, depending on who you talk to, defund the police has 20 different meanings, depending on who you talk to. Defund the police for you.
Well, I saw some of the protests when I was out in California. In Santa Cruz, there was a road blocked that was trying to do some court work, and I had to take an illegal U-turn and go out of the way. But I spoke to some of the protesters, and they said that there was a black man who was killed in the jail. The jail had mismanaged his care, and they wanted to not just defund the Santa Cruz Police Department, they wanted to defund all police departments in California and the entire country. And they said, we need to close down the jail. And I say, well, if we close down the jails, where are these murderers and other violent criminals? Where are they going to go? I just think it's some type of utopian idea. And yes, I do get the point where some defunders are saying, hey, why don't we have social service workers or like social workers go out and take care of people who are having mental health crises?
Yeah, like the concept is, should we really have 2, 3, 4 heavily armed police officers going to a domestic dispute?
Yeah.
Or someone that is mentally unstable, has mental health issues? Are they best equipped to manage a domestic dispute, someone with schizophrenia, mental health issues? Or should they instead be mediators, folks with therapy, psychology, psychiatrist backgrounds handling those type of issues? That's the one tenet of this defund the police mindset that I can wrap my arms around. Curious of your perspective.
Sure, that's a discussion that we certainly have to have. Let's kind of change the responsibility of the cops. They don't need to be in charge of everything. Let's kind of take that away and give that to another segment of the government. So I'm willing to discuss that. And another thing I wanted to mention to all the viewers here today is on the anniversary of Breonna Taylor's passing, Ashley released a radio ad with the Charlottesville area radio network. And I've been pushing this for the past year. What we need to do in the Virginia General Assembly is that we must have a zero tolerance body camera law. So that way, if any police officer doesn't wear or turns off their body camera while executing an arrest warrant, a search warrant, or even a warrantless search, that they be terminated from their position. And unless they can prove in court that they were having technical issues while wearing the body camera. Well, that will bring accountability to Virginians. That's what we're looking for. We want to make sure that all cops at all times are wearing body cameras while people are getting searched, while they're getting arrested. And we know what happened to Breonna Taylor. The body cams are off. And it's very unfortunate because we don't have all the evidence in that case. We need to prevent that from happening here in Virginia, and we need to be proactive about that.
Are you pro-police?
I'm absolutely pro-police, but I'm also pro-police reform. We can't just maintain the status quo. Things do need to change. And I've worked in the criminal justice system for years. I used to work at a public defender's office. I used to do intake for public defenders at a jail in Jessup, Maryland. I've worked as a court runner and process server for years. I've worked for various attorneys. I have a lot of experience in the criminal justice system, and I know better than Sally Hudson how to reform the criminal justice system. And she is part of the defund movement, and it is not working. we have over 200 vacancies in the Virginia State Police. I spoke to Wayne Higgins last year, and he verified that with me.
Who's Wayne Higgins?
He's the president of the Virginia State Police Association.
Aaron King, welcome to the show. Ken Moon Art is giving you some props. Jade King is watching in Virginia Beach. Brian Bickers, refreshing to have someone with common sense running in Virginia instead of the steady flow of, quote, mobsters, end quote. That's from Brian Bickers, just left that comment on the feed. I'm going to get to more of these comments here in a matter of moments. What did you make of Governor Northam endorsing Terry McAuliffe? And Terry McAuliffe was one of the loudest voices in the room when Governor Northam's yearbook came to fruition and
Yeah.
Governor Northam's the blackface
Yes.
in the yearbook.
Yes.
Terry McAuliffe had the loudest bullhorn demanding that Ralph Northam resign immediately. Now I'm seeing Ralph Northam shaking hands, kissing babies, and endorsing Terry McAuliffe. I mean, it's like, come on.
You know, in the military, they call that an about face. And that's what he's done. And I actually met Terry McAuliffe in person while I was in San Francisco at the Commonwealth Club, where the Obamas, the Clintons, and other prominent politicians have been to. Now, McAuliffe was there because he was doing his book tour for Beyond Charlottesville. And he was talking just about 2017 and what happened then.
A12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And McAuliffe, I mean, he's just supporting the party. You know, I mean, he's basically, he's part of the party establishment. And, you know, I just don't see why the Democrats would want more of the same in Virginia. I've actually endorsed Sergio de la Pena. He's an immigrant from Mexico. He retired from the United States Army as a colonel. And growing up, he actually picked cotton. He's known what it's like to go from rags to riches. And after retiring from the Army, he actually was part of Westcom. He worked on the Trump administration for 4 years, and he was part of the Department of Homeland Security. He has federal level experience. And unfortunately, I think Sergio de la Pena has been underrated. He's getting a lot more support with the Republican Party now. And I'm hoping that we'll nominate him to be the next governor of Virginia as a Republican. And I've endorsed him on my March 6th rally. And I've been going out and registering people to be delegates for the Republican convention on May 8th. The deadline to sign up as a delegate for this upcoming Uncanvassed convention is this Friday at 5 p.m. in Charlottesville City and in Albemarle County.
Walk the folks through the delegate system and the process, because I think a lot of folks don't know.
Sure. I've actually been to a convention before. I had worked on the Jean Marie Davis for Lieutenant Governor campaign between 2012 and 2013. And for those of you who don't know, Jean Marie Davis was the wife of, and still is the wife of former Congressman Tom Davis. And Tom Davis, I actually worked in his 2006 re-election campaign and got an internship with the National Security Subcommittee, so I spent some time working in Congress as well while I was at George Mason University. But a convention is just a party process. And you have to be a registered voter, but in addition to that, you have to fill out a form before a deadline set with your city committee or your county committee. And once you submit that, then you can vote as a delegate. Now, because of the COVID-19 restrictions, normally convention, they have it at one location in Virginia, like the one I went to back in 2013.
Like a community center or a church, a meeting
Yes,
place.
and there's thousands
Yeah.
of people there.
Yeah.
But
This is a drive-by convention.
Yes. This year is going to be completely different. And it's actually not even in the party plan, but they change it just to comply with the governor's COVID-19 restrictions.
I hate conventions. Can I straight up say that? I watched someone whose ideology and politics I align with in a lot of ways.
Yep.
In Denver Riggleman. I watched Denver Riggleman get, lack of better phrase, bamboozled out of a congressional seat because of a drive-by convention in Bob Good's district.
Yeah, I mean, convention definitely
Why
limits.
the convention? Why not? And you obviously this is not something.
Yeah.
This is just two dudes shooting the you know what.
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't a primary make so much more sense? It's so much more democratic. A
Yeah.
primary. The convention is a way for a party to, in a lot of ways, cherry pick who would get the nomination.
Precisely. Well, I was on the phone with Virginia Senator Amanda Chase last night, and I was even talking to her. I'm like, there's people who are registered voters, but if they don't meet that filing deadline, sometimes it's the beginning of April or just the middle of April,
They can't
and
be a delegate.
They can't vote, and they're just eliminated from the process. And that is certainly an issue. Not as many people are able to participate, which I think is unfortunate.
Which is anti-democracy.
In some ways, yes.
I'm enjoying the conversation. A lot of things I want to throw to you. Judah's enjoying the conversation over there. I see when the director nods his head like this, he's often very stoic. That means he's enjoying the conversation. You have been the second most vocal person in this community. The first is the person you're talking to here. The second most vocal in this community about some of the behavior and some of the language and the rhetoric that Mayor Nikiah Walker has utilized while in office. We had the vulgar poem that used sexually graphic language, which we won't repeat here. And we had the concerning behavior when it came to taxpayer money and credit card usage. Yesterday, City Council put a clear-cut policy in place that allows counselors to spend $1,000 a year, taxpayer money, on credit cards. Mayor Nikiah Walker wanted that number to be raised to $10,000, and she wanted that $10,000 to be done in a non-oversight way.
Wow.
Meaning that any counselor, not just her, any counselor would have carte blanche to use the taxpayer money up to $10K without accountability. The other counselors, some voices of reason, thank God, limited it to a G note a year and put clear-cut rules in place how that G note could be spent, and the accountability measures that were put in place, meaning if you're going to use this $1,000, you got to get approval from council. Mayor Nikiah Walker, open-ended, show's yours.
Sure. I actually spoke to the mayor over 2 weeks ago.
In person?
Over the phone.
Okay.
Now, she hesitated to acknowledge to me that she, in fact, was the mayor. I said, hey, are you Mayor Walker or are you a staffer? And then she paused, and I could tell she was thinking. And she said, yes, I'm the mayor. And I asked her, well, would you care to explain your statements? And she gave me the perfect, political non-answer answer.
What does that mean?
Basically, that means it's an answer, but it didn't answer my question. And what she said is that do research between March of I think it was 2018 until now, and you'll find your answer. I'm like, that doesn't answer anything for me. I'm trying to understand, why did you say what you did? Why is it that you're not taking accountability for improperly using gift cards to bribe your supporters to come to city council meetings to advance your own policy agenda? I mean, if that's not political corruption, then what is, right? So we have to stand up to these corrupt establishment. And sadly, there are no Republicans running for city council right now. So
The last one, you know who the last one on council? Republican?
Rob Schilling.
Yep,
Yeah.
Rob Schilling.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is what happens when you have a party monopoly.
And also, I'll give you that. I will give you that. This is what happens when you have a party monopoly in not only the city of Charlottesville, but in Central Virginia. And people are asking on the feed, why are you bringing up Mayor Nikiah Walker with Philip? Well, Philip would represent the district that the city of Charlottesville is in. The city of Charlottesville is the biggest part of the district, right?
Absolutely.
Is that not right?
Most votes come from the city.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is very much topical for his campaign. That's fair.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's why I'm bringing it up. The most votes for his campaign come from the city of Charlottesville. So
Yeah.
this is something that's in the news cycle, so this is why he has to address it, right?
Absolutely. And I want to be abundantly clear about something else, too. I actually saw Pete Snyder with Ken Cuccinelli last week. And Pete, he lives here in the Charlottesville
On
area.
Rugby Road. I know,
Yeah.
I know Pete fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's come on this show a few times.
Yeah. And, he condemned Mayor Walker. But I invited Pete and his staff to come and support me on the call to have Mayor Walker resign. Because if we're going to say something, let's see some action behind it. So I reached out to the Northern Charlottesville office for Pete Snyder, and they didn't send anybody to my rally the first time at City Hall. And of course, I was encountered by Antifa and other protesters who said sexually egregious things in response to my protests. And they were trying to make it a clown show, which was unbelievable. I mean,
What does that mean? What happened with the protest? This was a couple of Saturdays ago. In
Yes.
front of City Hall. Joe Thomas was there.
Joe Thomas was there, NBC News was there, and every time I tried to speak, they were shouting over me. And the NBC News reporter, Andrew Webb, told me, we can't use the interview because we can't hear what you're saying. So when I had my rally at the Albemarle County office building last weekend, I met with the news reporter off-site just to make sure my voice could be heard. And then we went to the protest site. But surprisingly, there was no protesters the second time, which was strange, but it is what it is. But with Pete Snyder, I told him about the event. I told two of his staffers about the event. I even reminded them about the event. And they didn't send anybody out there. And I said, what's going on? I am the first Republican to run in 16 years. Where is he in this battle? And he was absent. And I've called on his campaign and said, hey, let's organize another event. And if your folks are willing to come in, I'd be happy to work with you. Unfortunately, the Pete Snyder folks have just attacked me. It was like, well, how dare you criticize Pete Snyder? I'm like, we're about to have a convention. And if a governor candidate is not defending his home turf, the voters in the state of Virginia should know about that. That's a very important factor of determining who the next Republican governor candidate will be. And that's why I'm bringing that up today. And also another thing I'll mention too is that I had two separate meetings last week. I met with over 10 Republican House of Delegate candidates who are all running in blue districts. A couple of them I spoke to, Pete Snyder had donated $500 to. And to date, I have an organization called Vote for Hamilton.
That's your PAC?
Well, not a PAC, it's a political organization.
Okay.
And Pete has not donated $1 to my campaign yet. So that's where I'm calling on. Where's the action?
Who do you think is going to win the governor's race? Who do you think is going to be the Republican, get the Republican nomination? And then who do you think is going to win the governor's race?
Well, I think the top...
Legitimately here, because
Yeah.
you follow this closely here.
Yes,
Not
yes.
not giving me the company line here.
Yes,
Legitimately.
So I believe the top contenders are Sergio de la Pena, Glenn Youngkin, and Pete Snyder.
Okay.
Kurt Cox also has a lot of support too, but because...
You're talking the Republicans here.
Yes. Kurt Cox is also, I think, in the top two because he has a lot of Rob Bell supporting him and a lot of the party establishment supporting him. And that's important in a convention to have support from the party establishment. But on the grassroots side, I think Sergio has a lot more of that support. And Pete and Glenn Youngkin have the best financed campaigns. So they've been canvassing and getting delegate forums at many meetings. And Glenn Youngkin was here at Mission Barbecue this past Monday. He said he traveled over 14,000 miles since he started the
That dude's
campaign.
logging miles.
Yeah, yeah. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think those are going to be the top folks.
So you said them all here. Who do you think is going to get the Republican nomination? Who do you if you had to pick?
If I had the pick,
If you were a betting man.
Well, let's say based on finances and whatnot, probably Glenn Youngkin might get it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're saying Glenn against McAuliffe?
Looks like it, yeah.
And then McAuliffe gets the W.
Yeah,
Be tough to bet against McAuliffe in Virginia. Would you agree?
it is.
Yeah. The monopoly the party has, not only in the city, not only in Central Virginia, but across the Commonwealth, is a force to be reckoned with. It's something that you've said should be changed.
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
We have to increase minority outreach. As of right now, I believe it's about 20% of all Virginians who live in the state now are immigrants.
20% of the folks that live in the Commonwealth are immigrants.
Yes. And I believe that a lot of that population is from Northern Virginia and from Richmond in these very populated areas. So we have to reach out to these immigrant communities. And that's the reason why I endorse Sergio de la Pena, because he's an immigrant from Mexico. He knows how to reach out to those folks. And he's gotten from the bottom all the way to the top. And he has a very inspirational story that folks can follow. And we have to rebrand the Republican Party.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's another important part too.
Dude, the GOP, it's still has a brand of old, white, stodgy dude. And
we're not going to win with that.
No, right?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, and that's not probably indicative of the GOP in totality.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, why has the Libertarian Party not gotten more traction?
Well, when I contacted the Libertarian Party last year
About potentially running as a Libertarian?
Yeah. I left them several voicemails.
You got no response?
No response.
Jesus.
And I said, if they can't, reach back to their candidates,
Yeah.
they're definitely not reaching back to their voters. I'm like, I can't win on this. Forget it.
Why do you think that is? Because so many, I don't want to speak for people, but for those that are watching, Judah, I'll throw you here, I think so many in 2021 have this like fiscally conservative mindset, but this socially liberal mindset at the same time. And when it comes down to it, we want our freedoms.
Absolutely.
We don't want the government telling us what we can and cannot do. We don't want to be told when we can go to worship service, how to run the business, that COVID knows when it's 10 p.m. at night or midnight, and before midnight might be okay.
Yeah.
But
After midnight's
12:01
dangerous.
a.m., it's dangerous. I mean, in what I've seen, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think I am. What I've seen over the last 14 months of government telling us where we can go, what we can eat, how we can worship, when we can leave our house, what we can buy, what we can say, prioritizing Lowe's, Walmart, Target, and big box corporate brands that have lobbyists and donate to government elected officials.
Crony capitalism.
Crony capitalism, but deprioritizing the mom and pops
Yep.
that are our neighbors' businesses. I mean, fed up and frustrated is an understatement for me.
Yeah. That's the reason why I'm in this race too. I'm fighting for those mom and pop stores. And we need to get rid of this whole, there's essential workers and there's unessential workers. You gotta be kidding me. All workers are essential. Everybody should be getting back to work. And that's why it says on my logo, all jobs are essential, because they are. And the Democrats refuse to acknowledge that. And that's the reason why I'm getting more Democrats and independents, libertarians, in addition to Republicans, supporting me when I'm door knocking. And I've been doing that for the past month because I'm saying, hey, let's get Virginia back to work. And just about everyone I talk to has friends have had their hours cut because of the curfews, or they've lost their jobs because of the mandates. And people are sick and tired of what's going on, and they're ready for a change.
Jesse Rutherford's watching, friend of the show. Big fan of Jesse Rutherford. He's Board of Supervisors in Nelson County.
He's also part of the Young Republicans group that I'm part of.
Jesse Rutherford says, Kirk Cox Glenn Youngkin and Pete Snyder are the top contenders. They've turned in the most delegates across the Commonwealth. That's Jesse Rutherford.
But it's not a binding vote. Just because you turn in delegate forms doesn't mean that they can't be swayed to support someone else. So at the last minute, they could say, hey, I'm going to switch my vote to another person.
What do you make of the stimulus payments that were issued? Trillions of American dollars flooding the economy, no doubt creating inflation that we truly haven't experienced yet.
Yeah, it's coming. Without a doubt, it is coming. And the thing is, we can't increase the minimum wage and then at the same time say, oh, by the way, your business needs to be closed or you're going to have lesser operating hours. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a catch-22. That's an oxymoron.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're basically saying pay your people more, but you can't operate
Yeah.
in business to make money.
Make less revenue. Yeah. So Democrats should support ending all the lockdowns because then the minimum wage would be more realistic. But they're not going to, of course. And of course, I disagree with all these stimulus payments because we're just printing money and the bill's going to be due one day. We need the government to be on a diet. And not just on the state level, gosh, we need it on the federal level. The federal level has gone way above and beyond on their spending. And that's why I support convention of states, because too many establishment politicians up there are not taking a stand for a balanced budget amendment.
Les Barnett says, nicely done, Andrew.
Thank you, thank you. And actually, there's another thing I'd like to discuss too.
You know what? We were going to do 30 minutes here. We've gone 67 minutes. And the reason we've gone 67 minutes is I've found a lot of what you've said on this show compelling. I'm not going to say I've agreed with everything, but I've found a lot of what you've said compelling. I will also say this. We are equal opportunity hosts and an equal opportunity network. We will reach out to Sally Hudson because it's the right thing to do when you're hosting a talk show, and have Sally extend an invitation to her, which I think she will accept, to come on this program. Okay?
Absolutely.
I am going to ask you this question here in a matter of moments. I'll let you finish your thought here.
Sure.
I am going to ask you this question. Why should people vote for you over Sally Hudson in the 57th? That's coming up, but take some more time. Anything
Sure.
you want to get out there.
Sure. So during my campaign kickoff on March 6th in front of the Albemarle County Courthouse, I spoke as a historian about the need to preserve our history, to take a stand against this woke and cancel culture, and to fight for preserving historical monuments and statues. Now, I've traveled over 40 states. I've seen a lot of historical monuments across the country, and it has been just painful to see all the destruction. You know, I created this group called All Historical Statues Matter because while I was living in California, there was a bust of Ulysses S. Grant that was taken down at Golden Gate Park. There was a statue of Francis Scott Key that was taken down, who wrote the national anthem, and of Junipero Sierra, who was part of the California missions while Spain was ruling over Mexico and California at the time. And there was a statue of Abraham Lincoln was torn down in Portland. And we see time and time again, it was even my relative Theodore Roosevelt, his statue was moved in front of the Natural History Museum in New York.
We'll take it a step further. I'll cut to the chase with this statement.
Sure.
Mayor Walker would like to eradicate Thomas Jefferson completely from the University of Virginia. So much so that Thomas Jefferson, his birthday, not a holiday anymore. It's now, I think it's called like Employee Appreciation Day or something like that. And she said while sitting in that chair that he should be eradicated from the University of Virginia.
I completely disagree with that. We should honor our history and not erase it. So I completely disagree with the mayor. And you know, as a historian, we need to preserve history for future generations. This isn't just about me and my love for history. I started enjoying history when I was a teenager, but I want future generations of future teenagers to also be able to enjoy history just like I did as a youth. And that's what I'm fighting for. And that's why I stand for the phrase, all historical statues matter. And that's why I disagree with Sally Hudson, who also agrees with the mayor in regarding to having monuments being torn down. She wants the one of Robert E. Lee taken down. I disagree with that too. What we should do is that we should have a statue of Ulysses S. Grant put up, of black Union soldiers, of black Confederate soldiers. And we should hire artists that are underemployed and unemployed during a pandemic to create new works of art for the public sphere. And we should not just create statues, just towards just minority Americans, but for all Americans. And that's what I'm advocating for. And I will definitely fund new historical works of art if I am elected in the 57th district.
Compelling interview. 71 minutes in here. We'll close with, a couple final questions. Why should people vote you over Sally Hudson?
If you vote for me, I will be supporting term limits. And just because I'm in power does not mean I'm going to change my position. I'm in for term limits all the way. I will vote to lower your taxes, your sales tax, your income tax, your property tax. I will make it easier to live in the state of Virginia so you don't have to move to other states like Florida with a lower tax rate. I'm going to fight for police reform. I'm going to institute a mandatory body camera law so that way all police are held accountable. And we'll be exploring other criminal justice reform measures as well. I'm going to fight to end all the COVID-19 lockdowns and restrictions. And I'm going to fight to limit the executive power of the governor so that way we don't experience this anymore in the future. So these are many issues I'll be fighting for, plus more. And I encourage those of you who are watching this today to look me up on Facebook, Philip Andrew Hamilton for Virginia Delegate, and to donate to my campaign, to door knock with me, because I am here and I'm fighting to win.
We'll close with this. Which known political figure, elected official, do you either look up to or your ideology most aligns with his or hers? I asked Pete Snyder this question as well. I'm curious for you. Which person that we know of, okay, not a name no one knows about.
Yeah.
A name that we know about that you like, I identify with him or her, their ideology, their platform is most similar to mine.
Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. I mostly align with him. And actually, I would endorse him to be our next president. I'd be happy to see him run on the Republican ticket. But yes, we need Virginia to be more like Florida.
There you go. You get his email address, Judah?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll get it for him. Can we put the email address on air? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your email ID?
So it's going to be Philip H. 4 VA Delegate @gmail.com.
Okay, one more time for them.
Philip H. 4 VA Delegate @gmail.com.
It's the number 4.
Number 4, that's correct.
Appreciate your time, man. Wasn't sure, what to expect with the interview.
An honor to be on your show.
Thought you did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate the dialogue. The long form content like this gives us, opportunity to get to know not just candidates, but like small business owners, heads of nonprofits, agents of positive change, in a different format than say like a 15 or 20 or 30 second soundbite.
Absolutely.
You can really dig into the nitty gritty. I'll reach out to Sally. We'll see if we can get Sally Hudson on the show. I may suggest a live debate on the program with you and Sally.
Let her know I'm ready.
We'll see if she will say yes to this or not. From a strategy standpoint, she probably has reason to say no to a live debate. But Sally Hudson, the Sally Hudson I know, the Sally Hudson that was ready to go toe-to-toe with David Toscano on this network in a live debate setting, 2 days before Toscano announced that he would not run again, the Sally I know, would chomp at the bit to show her platform, her IQ in a live debate setting.
You know, actually, I challenged her to a debate last month.
Did you get a response? Probably no.
No response.
You will, I think, now after this.
Great.
Okay, this
Looking
is
forward to
far
it.
and wide. I appreciate your time, man. J-Dubs, we got some photos of the gentleman. Okay. All the best. We'll reach out to you again. We have the cell. Thank you kindly for joining us on the program.
Absolutely. Have a
Take
great day.
care. You too. You too. A couple more items out of the notebook that we need to get to, guys, on the I Love Seville show. Tomorrow's a big-time program for those that are watching. We have on the show two ladies that are going to join us. Angela Lynn is going to join us. Angela Lynn at one time ran for delegate. And we also have the former mayor of Scottsville on the program tomorrow as well. And her name, I'm calling it up, Nancy, I'm drawing a blank on your name here. I apologize for that, Nancy. Nancy Gill. So on tomorrow's show, Angela Lynn and Nancy Gill. Nancy Gill had a 21-year-old niece, a VMI graduate, killed on her bicycle by a motorist. Angela Lynn, her husband, suffered a permanent spinal cord injury while riding a bicycle in Albemarle County. This is a question I want to ask everybody. There are bike lanes all over the city of Charlottesville that offer safety for cyclists and runners. Clearly marked, clearly identified bicycle lanes for cyclists and runners to utilize in the city of Charlottesville. As soon as you get outside the 10.2 square miles that we call the city of Charlottesville, and you get into Albemarle County, those bicycle lanes do not exist. We've had more deaths. We just had one 2 days ago. A cyclist on Ivy Road. We've had more deaths from a cyclist standpoint, motorist hitting a cyclist, bicycle rider, motorist hitting a runner in Albemarle County. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 a year here. Eventually, we got to say enough is enough, and we got to figure out a way to improve runner and bicycle safety across Albemarle. It's certainly been improved in the city. And I know there are a lot of working parts here. The Virginia Department of Transportation, obviously a key player in this conversation. But I've mentioned on the show many times that I'm running for Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Cyclist safety and runner safety across the county of Albemarle will undoubtedly be a tenet, a key point of my platform and my campaign. A couple of items I want to get out of the notebook as well. This happened yesterday. City Council created, Charlottesville City Council, clear-cut policy and regulation when it comes to councilors using taxpayer money, your money, my money. Taxpayer money is the money we contribute to the municipality. We have a say of how taxpayer money is going to be spent. And we should use our voice. And we should demand having a seat at the table on how councilors are going to spend our money, taxpayer money. Yesterday, council voted 4-1 to adopt the fiscal year 2022 budget. Included in that budget was a provision that allows councilors a $1,000 per year allowance to spend taxpayer money. That $1,000 per year allowance, $500 for food and refreshments at meetings and events, $250 for other expenses relating to meetings and events, and $250 for constituent communication and outreach. Folks, the mayor wanted the allowance to be $10,000 a year and not $1,000. I'll repeat, she wanted it to be a $10,000 per year allowance and not a $1,000 per year allowance. Furthermore, she wanted that $10,000 to have no accountability measures and basically allow the counselors to spend the $10K per year however they see felt, however they wanted to. I just have such a difficult time understanding that mindset. 10 G's a year to spend the money any way you want without any oversight whatsoever? I just have such a difficult time understanding that mindset from the mayor. Fortunately, by a 4-1 vote, the only one opposing was Mayor Walker. From a 4-1 vote, Councilors Hill, Snook, McGill, and Payne said, look, we need to cap this at a G note a year, $1,000 a year, and we need to have clear-cut accountability and approval methodologies of how this money can be spent and when it can be spent. It's not no willy-nilly, you can spend $1,000 anytime you want without any accountability measures. But last night, if you were watching like I was watching, our top elected official, the person who who has the moniker of mayor, wanted it to be $10K. And $10K with no oversight. Ay, mi madre, really? All right, so tomorrow's program is going to be a good one. Don't miss tomorrow. We have Peter Krebs on Friday's show. Peter Krebs of the Piedmont Environmental Council. He's the community outreach coordinator. A lot we're going to cover with Peter Krebs on Friday. Folks, this show is long-form content that feature people in the community that are working hard to change it. I don't always agree with the people that are on the show, but I appreciate initiative and willingness to work hard to change, to make change. We try to showcase folks that are agents of change in Central Virginia on the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us. $10K? $10,000? I mean, good Lord.